Is the topic exactly?
Truth utilitarianism, which is
Question mark?
so the good thing both of you are here so he can explain the position essentially. Go ahead, Sinthe, if you want to explain truth utilitarianism real quick. It's a
Sure.
brief
So,
overview.
it's a form of utilitarianism where the type of utility you're maximizing is something similar to if you're familiar with like objective list theory, it's very similar to that. That instead of knowledge is true belief. Would be like the highest of these the list here.
And do you want me to take the position, like, describe my position in your words?
Your position, you seem to be some kind of like utopianist, I guess, where you think the moral action is based on the what it would be the moral action to do in the best of all possible worlds.
Okay, so I'm taking the position truth utilitarianism is less good than my model or something like that?
I would assume so.
Sure, got it.
Okay.
Cool. Wait, TJump, don't go yet. I have to ask a question. You were at the live debate thing, right? For modern day debates.
Yes, who am I talking to?
Pedro, this is my partner. Sorry.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Like, did I leave my Discord open by accident? Like, what's going on? I'm hearing voices. Yes, I was at the modern day debate thing.
All right. Legend has it, when Haas and Dylan Birds were about to fight, you were actually the man who stood up and told them both to stop it. Is that true?
No, I wanted them to fight. I was egging it on. There was a mod there, a guy who was a friend. His name is Bob, I think, who works with modern day debate, and he was doing the moderation there. He was the one who stopped it.
That was that heavy set guy?
No, I don't think he's fat.
Oh, well,
All right,
somebody.
This
somebody
is
walked
why
over.
we will never have live in-person debates. I was like, I knew this would happen.
You don't want entertaining fight content? Like, that's a reason to do it.
I don't want to go to jail, sir.
Did you see the Tim Pool thing where the guy like got up and like knocked the mic over and he said he was, he's like, I'll smack you right here, that kind of thing. I mean, that was kind of entertaining, Pedro. You got to admit.
Yeah, entertaining until it's your house. Okay.
That's true.
So don't do these in your own personal home. Great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. What's the I don't know. That was the whole thing was interesting. Were you actually there when they Destiny and Haas were measuring each other?
Yes.
Okay, so where did we land on that, TJump? I gotta know.
Destiny and Haas. I don't wait. What was I there for that? No, I was debating in the other room, so I can't tell you about that one.
Oh damn! You see, you could have solved this mystery for the entire internet. We could have sold
Wait,
it.
are
For
you asking like
of dollars.
who's taller?
Yeah.
Oh, they're both pretty short. They're both really short guys. Like Dylan is slightly taller than both of them, I think. So, and I'm like 6 inches taller than all of them.
What? Yeah, it's the land of the midgets. Well, they had this big thing on Twitch. Haas has been going ape shit with Destiny over who was taller. They actually measured each other while they were there.
Oh my god!
So
dumb. They're both like
It
5'4".
is dumb.
They're short.
The lollipop kids are fighting, dude. All right, guys. We'll toss you in the back. I think you're all set. You guys got any questions for us before we go?
Not for me.
Okay. TJump, we'll bring you on first. We'll allow you to introduce yourself after the intro is all taken care of. Poor TJump.
We're never doing.
He was stuck in the land of the lollipop kids. Poor guy.
Like Xander is I think taller than both of them.
Isn't James? James is pretty tall too.
James is my height. James and me are about the same height. I think I might be 1 inch taller than James. So James is tall. Oh, what's his name? Oh, shoot. Ben Burgess. Ben Burgess is huge. He's as big as I am.
Oh no shit. Well, wasn't Elijah Schaefer supposed to make that debate?
What's his like screen name?
Elijah Schaefer. I don't know. I thought he was supposed to be there though, but maybe he
I
got
was
like.
so happy he wasn't. I was so happy he wasn't because he was supposed to be defending Christianity against Destiny, and I was like, this man does not represent me. I don't know why we're doing this.
Yeah, I don't think he was there.
Yeah, I don't think he ended up on the roster. Or maybe I'm conflating that with Killstream. Maybe it was Killstream where he was supposed to go on. I thought it was Modern Day Debate.
No, it was. I saw the promotion. I prayed for it to stop. I prayed for some kind of intervention by God.
And then it happened. It's kind of funny.
Can you post a link in the chat to his Twitter or something?
Yeah. Throw up Elijah. Overall, you see where it says private chat?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll toss it in there for you. Looks like we're going live here in about 1 minute. I'll go ahead and put everybody in the background here. Private chat.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am the co-owner of the Crucible, Pedro, and we have a high IQ show for you today that should result in the most utils being yielded. Our official in-house left-wing debater, Sinthe, will be going up against internet personality, really artificial intelligence, TJump, covering the subject of truth utilitarianism. Pretty much Gary Kasparov versus Deep Blue, game number 7. So everyone take notes or you will get lost. But please still enjoy. But before we get to that, we would request you all watch this episode through Twitch right now by clicking the link at the top of the description or pinned in the top of the live chat. We are a young channel, ladies and gentlemen, and are constantly trying to expand. Like, share, subscribe, and if you feel you want to help us create something for this to grow even more and keep that nice steady drip of content going, donate to us through our PayPal. Join and become a member on our YouTube channel, or become a patron. Any and everything helps us complete the work we are trying to do ultimately, which is create a battleground, a public square where we can fight for and proclaim the truth. Welcome back and glad to have you, everyone. This is The Crucible. Enjoy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Crucible. Tonight we've got TJump against Sinthe on the topic of truth utilitarianism. I'm going to bring out Tom first, let him introduce himself, tell you where you can find him and all of his great personal details that he wants out there, so that you guys can go like, subscribe, and all that good stuff.
Hey, how's it going? I'm TJump. I run a YouTube channel called youtube.com/TJump. That's where you can find me. Please give me all of your money. Thanks.
All of it, not just some of it. You heard it here first. Sinthe, how you doing tonight? It's good to see you.
How's it going? I'm Sinthe. I'm the left-wing in-house debater for The Crucible. I've got a YouTube channel as well at youtube.com/Sinthe, the way it's spelled on screen. But don't give me all your money. Spend it all in The Crucible. I think it's a really good platform, and I'm glad there are platforms like this as opposed to the alternatives.
All right. Well, we sure appreciate that. We're going to start just for the audience, for those who are new or coming in tonight. We always allow for 7-minute opening statements. You don't have to take the entire 7 minutes if you don't want to. You can yield your time back. There's no penalty for doing it. You just have it available if you want to use it. We'll start with Sinthe, as he was the challenger in this. Sinthe, go ahead with your opening.
Sure. So my ethical system is a form of utilitarianism. The actions we ought do are primarily the ones that maximize the degree to which people's brains are modeling reality as it exists independently of human minds. This experience is weighted on an individual level with something nearish a logarithmic curve. Truth is the highest form of utility, in my view. Things like fulfilling desires come second, and those are all a bunch of nerd words, but in simple terms, this means we should do things that allow people to better understand the world, and we need to put more concern to the people who are the worst off. What makes someone a good person is a spectrum based on intent to do good actions. You could say the pinnacle of morality is a person who intends to do the most good for as many people as possible, expecting nothing in return. Here are a few examples of ways this works out in the real world. Imagine you gave someone an infinite supply of drugs, making them feel great, but they're always half passed out on the couch. If you're drugged out, you're incapable of broadening your horizons or better understanding the world. And so even in the case that it makes somebody feel better, even if they feel better overall, it would still be wrong to sell them drugs, or even worse, to sell them to children. Another one would be if you see a child drowning in a lake, you can hop in and save that kid, and if that kid dies, they'll never be able to understand anything else about the world. So it's your moral duty to jump in. It would be wrong to just sit there. Other decisions are encapsulated by it as well. So, for example, causing someone suffering is generally wrong. If you're suffering, you're distracted, and thus you're incapable of understanding truth. Fulfilling somebody's preferences is very strongly generally good for many reasons. For example, it gets rid of those wants and allows people to better focus on the truth. TJump's alternative is a system which believes that despite the fact that the actions you should do are going to be very similar to the ones that I prescribe that you should do, the actions that are moral are going to be distinct from this. So, for example, in the case of the trolley problem, TJump thinks it's objectively immoral to kill one to save 5. I would assume TJump applies this as well to, like, it's objectively immoral to kill one to save 1 billion, or to steal a penny to save the world even. All of these would be to TJump objectively immoral, but TJump says you should do it. That's the end of my opening statement. TJump can go ahead.
Okay, TJump, you're up.
So my moral action is one that describes morality in terms of what a perfectly moral world would look like. So I describe morality or objective morality as the best of all possible worlds. And what the moral system in that world would be is the perfect morality. And then we should use that as a comparing point to assess morality in our world and every other world. So we could ask, for any action, if you want to know if it's objectively moral, would this action be moral or immoral in the best of all possible worlds? If it would be immoral in the best of all possible worlds, it's an immoral action. If it would be moral in the best of all possible worlds, it's a moral action. And so my morality takes the stance that we should define morality not based off of our subjective pragmatic limitations, but based off of the objective connotation of what morality would look like in the best of all possible worlds. This is why I use the terms in the way that he described. And I think it is a better, more accurate way to use them rather than defining them subjectively, because if we do define them subjectively, it leads to contradictions with how morality would be perceived in the future. So, for example, if you say, is it moral in the trolley problem to kill 1 to save 5? The answer is yes, given our current limitations. But if we apply the limitations of the future and future technological advances, then the answer is going to be no. So these pragmatic limitations that are used in the utilitarian model have the problem of not being able to accurately assess future morality, as it is completely deterministic on our subjective limitations, whereas mine takes a more holistic approach and is able to define morality from a scope of any possible world or any technological development, and accurately give it a definition that can be applied in all of these different worlds, including the best moral ones. And that is why mine is a better model. And I'll conclude there.
The floor is open. Sinthe, if you want to start with a response, you're more than welcome to.
Sure. So you said it would be it would be moral given our current limitations. Our current limitations are true, so deductively wouldn't that just mean it is moral?
No, it would fit our current limitations as defined as moral, would only apply in our current social perspective. It wouldn't, there's no objective reference there. You couldn't say because we would define it as moral in our current society, therefore it's objectively moral. No. What you could say is that we will give it that label, or most people in our society would give it that label. But the reason it fails is because if we look at the society like the best of all possible worlds I described, most people in that society would say, you're all wrong. And they're more likely to be right than we are because they're in the best of all possible worlds. They're more likely to have some model of morality that is more likely to correspond to what the better or the actual morality is. And since they're most likely going to say, no, you guys are all wrong for calling that morality, then we're more likely to be incorrect about giving it that label, even though we would pragmatically do so given our limitations.
When you say possible, are you referring to like logically possible, or are you referring to some other idea of possible?
What do you mean? When did I use
I mean,
the
like
word
when you say the
possible?
best, you said the best of all possible worlds. When you say possible here, like what are you
Like
possible?
modal realism. Like if we assessed all possible worlds, there is, if we just, it doesn't matter if it's modal ontological realism where they all exist or not. If we look at a world which is the most technologically advanced possible and try to discern what is the morality they would have, or how would they answer this question? That's what I mean by possible here.
In the best of all possible worlds, are there infinite people feeling like infinite amounts of good?
There could be. It doesn't matter.
Is it possible?
Sure.
Okay, then it would be the best of all possible worlds would be one with infinite people experiencing infinite amounts of good.
Well, no.
If this
So
is the
I
case,
would
then
define
the best of all possible.
no.
Oh, go ahead. I didn't know you.
So the best of all possible worlds, by my definition, is one where it's impossible to force anyone to do anything they don't consent to doing. The number of people there isn't really relevant as long as it's more than like one.
Okay, so if there was only one person, you think this would be the best possible world?
More than one. Number of people don't matter here. So again, we're talking about the laws of the universe, not the number of people here. It's irrelevant.
So for you, the best possible world would be one in which it just seems like if you're saying best, you're referring to this in some kind of like, I guess, normative sense, or are you like, I'm not.
No, it's just a label I'm giving to a world that is the most technologically advanced. So imagine if there's a world where there's the most technologically advanced world possible. Just imagine the same number of people as our Earth, because it doesn't matter for the sake of the argument. What is, if we had all of the technology to do absolutely everything, there's no limitations on food or resources or money, what is the moral system they would have? And we're going to label this the best. We're just going to call this the best, because presumably...
Okay, so it could exist with one person.
It doesn't matter. This is irrelevant to the argument.
Well, no, it is relevant to the
This
argument.
makes no difference
just
to
because you don't see
morality.
the relevance. Just because you don't
Makes
see the
no
relevance.
difference to morality.
Sure, if it doesn't matter, then the best of all possible worlds, right? One where nobody else is able to violate anybody else's consent would be one where like either one person
No,
exists or
again,
one
this
where
is a
more
straw
people
man.
exist,
This is
in which
irrelevant
there-
to
It's not a
morality.
straw man.
This
Hold
is
on.
not-
Let me
wait, no,
hold on.
no,
I let you go for a bit.
Oh my God, no.
You
This
just
doesn't
said that it
address the
could be
question.
possible
No,
with the
going
case of
back.
one person.
Hang on, guys. Hang
Go back.
on. We got to do one at a time. Let Sinthe get his response, and we'll get it right back to you, TJump.
Sure. So if it's the case that in a world where the best possible world would be any world in which there exists there exists nobody ever violating anyone else's consent. It would be this would be the case for a world in which one person exists. Nobody could violate anybody else's consent because only one person exists, and thus to create the best of all possible worlds, you should kill off all but one person. This is ridiculous.
Again, as I said, this is a straw man. He's just wasting time. He doesn't understand anything about the issue. So we're comparing models here. Mine says no involuntary imposition of will. That means if you kill anybody, it's immoral. No, that isn't the best of all possible worlds. You don't get to kill people in the past and call it a moral world. That's just stupid. Literally a stupid argument. So to get back to the point, which he completely just evaded on this complete random side tangent that had nothing to do with the issue, the question is which model of morality is better? His model uses a subjective contextual definition of morality based on only our current limitations. My model uses a definition that if we imagine the best world possible, which is one where imagine we got to the point where we had infinite technology and no limitations, what model of morality would they use? The number of people here is just a stupid side tangent that's irrelevant. Imagine the same number we have now, or whatever we would have when we had perfect technology. Doesn't matter to the point. The point is what is the moral system we're going to use when we get to a point where we have the best technology possible? No more limitations of food, no more limitations of money. What moral system will we adopt? In that moral system, how will they answer the question? That answer is more likely to give us a definition of morality that is going to correspond to the true morality, or what we should call objective morality, whether or not there is such a thing. And that system is the one I'm using to give a definition. So that system, which can accurately define morality at all points in time through all history for all possible worlds, is a better system to define morality than one that is contingent on our subjective limitations, which is the one Sinthe is using.
So, TJump, there's actually a contradiction in your response. You said the best of all possible worlds wouldn't be one in which people have been murdered, and then you went on to say the best of all possible worlds would be one in which we've developed technology that's as maximally good as it could be. This is a contradiction because people have been murdered, so that you can. Yeah, it is a contradiction. The best of all possible worlds is one where people haven't been murdered, and also the best of all possible worlds is this one, right?
So that doesn't address anything about the issue. No, it's not a contradiction. The first
that
thing
would be
is,
a contradiction.
No, it's not. So again, trying to get to the best of all possible worlds, given our limitations, the best of all possible worlds is just the philosophical world where there was never any involuntary position of will ever, no matter what. Obviously, we can never get there. We can't fix the things in time, but we can try to get as close as possible. Again, this is completely irrelevant to anything in the topic. So being pedantic about whether or not we can it's literally being pedantic. No. Me giving a thought.
I'm glad you walked it back, though. It's fine now.
Stop. Me giving a thought experiment of us trying to get there so that your tiny brain can understand the concept of the word is not the argument itself. So the best of all possible worlds is there is never impossible to have any involuntary position of will at any point in time. So that's the best of all possible worlds. Obviously, we can never get there, which I have stated in many previous debates if you have ever watched any of my content, which clearly you haven't. So that it would not be a contradiction. You're just pedantically critiquing word usage because you didn't understand the term.
If you're saying you misused the terms or something, that's what.
No, I did not misuse the terms. I used an analogy.
I'm not going to hold you to it. You can walk it back because now
I did not walk it back.
Right?
You made a mistake. You were ignorant.
If you're saying
of the
that we should try to achieve the best of all possible worlds,
I was not saying we should try to achieve this. I did not say that either.
You did. Maybe you didn't mean to say it.
No. Again, I'll explain this to you again. When I use the word the best of all possible worlds, the way to explain this is imagine if humanity got to a point where we had infinite technology and there were no resources. This is a way for you to imagine what the best of all possible worlds is like. This is not the best of all possible worlds. This is a way for you to imagine the best of all possible worlds. This is not a statement of whether or not we should do it. That's a different topic. This is just an example to try and get you to imagine what the word best of all possible worlds means. That's it. That's all this means.
So what does it truly mean then, since this clearly isn't what it means?
As I said before, it is a world where there is impossible to have any involuntary imposition of will, which means it is impossible for anyone to force anyone else to do anything they don't consent to. That is what the world would be. A
world in which it's impossible for anyone else to do anything that anyone else doesn't want, or it's impossible for one person to force another person to do things, would be one in which only one person exists. This would fit this definition.
No. Again, if we include the people that exist now, that would not happen. Wrong. So again, that's irrelevant to the debate. This is
if only one person had ever existed, that would be the best of all possible worlds.
This is irrelevant to the debate. Again, what we're debating here is what is the better usage of morality, which is the better model. You saying that you could create
very relevant
a world.
This is part of your model.
No, it's not. This is not a part of my model.
The best of all possible worlds is part of your model.
No, it's not. Again, you've clearly never watched any of my content.
The best of all possible worlds is part of your model. You've said it yourself.
Yes, the best of all possible worlds is, and one where you kill everyone is not the best of all possible worlds, because guess what? Those are impositions of will. So what you're saying is literally stupid. So can we get back to the actual debate?
TJump, hold on. We're getting to the debate. Part of your moral system is best of all possible worlds. It being moral there would make it moral everywhere, right?
No,
so
wrong. That's so stupid. It's so stupid.
No, this is a direct quote from you. The morals of the best possible world is the objectively moral.
I said your theory is
Tom, this is absolutely something you've said. You said the morals of the best possible world is the objectively moral. If it's moral there, it's moral anywhere.
No, it's not. That's stupid.
That is verbatim what you said.
No. If it was objectively moral in a perfect world, that doesn't mean it'd be moral here.
So you have said it.
No. Again.
Wait. What
you're saying is so insanely stupid right now. Stop.
No. I'm quoting you. That's why it's stupid. I agree.
You're not. No, you're not. You're not.
You said verbatim the morals in the best possible world is the objectively moral.
You need to actually go back to the topic. Stop being pedantic about semantics that literally mean nothing to the topic. Stop being a dumbass and actually bring up an actual.
I don't know why you're so I don't know why you're so tilted by this. I think it's completely fine to compare your model to mine.
People bringing up a pedantic dumbass semantics that have nothing to do with the topic always piss me off.
Sure, I'll go on the defense. You can go ahead and challenge my system.
I did at the very beginning. I said, okay, so my model gives a comprehensive definition of morality based on all possible worlds, and it says that the better way to define objective morality is based on the best possible world, which we're going to define as just imagine we get to the best, technologically best world. Would that be a better way to assess morality rather than the subjective way our particular world does?
So in the case of understanding morality, I think it's just as objective to assess it based on what is good in this possible world, the one that we currently exist in, versus having all of these different ideas of different possible worlds that you seem to not be willing to defend. In the case of this world that actually exists, it seems it's the only one that does exist, and thus it's the one that's possible. My morality is relative to this one. I don't see that as unobjective. And just because the Empire State Building has a certain height in this possible world doesn't mean that it's not objective.
Yes, so if our world, if we assess morality contingent to us, that's literally subjective. If it's objective, that means we're assessing morality to all of the possible spaces.
That wouldn't be no. Objective and subjective are usually mind independent, mind dependent. Maybe you just use a different definition of objective and subjective.
Well, if you're saying we have the objective morality in our world, but they don't in their world, or you're saying we have the objective morality in our world and they have the objective morality in their world, but it's different, that would be a contradiction.
No, it wouldn't. So in our world, like I say, like it's objective for me. It's objectively moral for me to do X thing, but it wouldn't be objectively moral for you to do X thing because you're a different person in a different situation. For example, it would be moral for me to give to charity if I have lots of money, but it wouldn't be moral for me to give to charity if I lived in Africa and I was about to starve to death. The most moral thing to do would be to preserve my own life. So you can have different things that are contextually different, and they can still be objectively the moral thing to do. For example, it's objective that you are a certain height. It's objective that I'm a certain height. We have different heights, but that doesn't mean it's subjective. We just have different heights. Objectively, you're 6'2", I'm 5'11".
Right, so that's why I gave in the trolley problem. In our world, we see it as moral to flip the switch. In the best of all possible worlds, they'd say it's not moral to flip the switch. So it's the same exact example. So if the same exact example, it seems moral to this world and is not seem moral to that world, and you're saying both are objective, that is a contradiction.
In the case of the trolley problem, you have two options. You either allow one person to die, or you allow 5 people to die. Some people do an action and action distinction. But if this is the case in the best of all possible worlds, I don't see why there it would be moral to let 5 people die.
We're going back to the point. So if two worlds, doesn't matter whether you think they would agree or not, if they disagree on this one example, and you're saying both are objective, have you been there? Stupid thing to say.
You haven't. You're making the claim that they.
I never said I did.
Again, agree with you.
Stop getting stuck on the semantics. Focus on the point.
It's not a semantic argument.
Try to focus here. So, if two worlds in two different locations disagreed, and you're calling them both objective, that's a contradiction, right?
No, it'd be if they disagreed on the same thing. It would be a contradiction. They don't disagree on the same thing.
Okay. So if two worlds, disagree on the same thing. Would that be a contradiction?
Yes, but they don't.
The best of all possible worlds hasn't been discovered. You can't say they don't, so that's just you being ignorant.
For me to grant this to you, right,
go back,
with the definition of morals that I'm using, it wouldn't be the case, Tom.
Let him finish. Let him finish.
So
go ahead, Tom.
You claimed our morality is objective. Ours in our world, right?
The moral system is, it's mind independent, yeah.
Right. So our model is morality. And if there's a different world, and their model is objective, and they disagree, that's a contradiction. So
if they disagree on the same thing, it would be a contradiction.
When I say disagree,
right?
I
have no reason to believe
the same thing. Principle of charity. Use basic logic here. So if there are two worlds and they disagree on the same thing, then they both can't be objective because they're different things. They're contradictory, right?
So if they disagree on the same thing, yes.
Yes.
It would be a contradiction.
So if you're defining objective morality based on our subjective world and thinking that no one in any history and any future is going to disagree, that seems stupid. The better way to do it is to say, what is morality going to look like if we gained all the technology in the world? So there's no more subjective limitations, because there's lots of things that we think are immoral because of our subjective limitations that aren't, like stealing food. If 10 people are starving to death, there's not only enough food for 5 people and you steal it to save yourself, technically not immoral. But in other worlds, they say, no, that's still immoral. Like, the moral thing to do is to sacrifice yourself under all circumstances, no matter what, even if everyone is going to die. The morality changes as we gain more technology and more intellectual resources. And so to think that because of our subjective current world, that everyone is going to agree with us in the future about the morality that we subjectively see is a very weak-minded way to assess morality. A better way to assess morality is to think, what are they going to see as moral in the future when they have all the technology? That would be a better way to assess this is more likely to be objective, and ours is more likely to be subjective based off our limitations.
So, Tom, this is just not the argument I gave you. In the case of these two different disagreements you're talking about here, you've just made the claim they would disagree on this thing. In a different situation, different things are moral and immoral. It's not a disagreement about the same situation.
No. I said same. Remember, like 10 times I said same situation.
The best of all possible world where people are starving or people are likely to die of starvation?
No.
That was your example.
So trolley problem. The example before was trolley problem. So trolley problem, we're talking about just the trolley problem. There are cases where we look at a moral situation, and in our world it seems moral, and in the future they may not see it as moral. Whether or not they do or not is irrelevant here. They may not see it as moral. So if we are assessing objective morality based on our subjective world and say that our subjective world is right about everything and nothing will change, that's stupid. Clearly, a better way to try to assess objective morality is to think, what will it be like in the future when they don't have any subjective limitations like food stuff? That's why I gave the food example. So we imagine that isn't a problem.
The issue is you're saying they may not see it as moral. You are making it based on a subjective statement, right? In the case of they may not see it as moral. I agree, but they would be wrong about this, right? We can have objective morality that people can be wrong about. There are people who would disagree about.
Okay.
There will be people who would disagree with you about morality, Tom. And you would say those people are wrong, right? Your morality, you say, is objective. You can do that like weird, exasperated thing, but hold on. You talk for a while there. I want to address all the gish
you
out.
brought up a good point. You brought up a good point.
You gished out that bunch.
Finish, Tom.
Okay.
Wait.
Tom.
Oh, no, he brought up a really good point there, so I wanted to bring it up. Yes, they could think of differently, but the question here is, who is more likely to be right? Are we more likely to be right about objective morality, or are the people who have discovered all the technologies and solved food and hunger and money, are they more likely to be right about morality?
So are they more likely to? It doesn't really matter because we don't know if they are or aren't. If they are or aren't making a certain statement about it, they may disagree with us. But if you define morality a certain way, then it would be objectively the case that that is what morality is. Even if your definition is subjective, you hold the same position. You said it's technically not immoral. So even you believe that in this world, it's not immoral to pull that lever.
Yeah, I do believe it is, because I believe morality is based on that best world. So, but what I think...
You said it's technically not immoral.
No, it's still immoral. Justified immoral actions are still immoral.
I'll let you walk it back.
I didn't walk it back. Like, have you seen nothing of my morality? Maybe you should just not be ignorant about the topic.
I have.
Wait. I want to go back to the debate.
Let's go back. It would technically not be immoral. Maybe you misspoke. I'm not going to hold you to it.
It would still be immoral. A justified immoral action is still immoral. Just watch any of my content on the topic. But
so actually, I have watched some of your content.
You're ignorant. You're so ignorant. I just corrected you.
Could I mention you a verbatim quote at a specific timestamp?
I'm ignorant. You're ignorant of my topic. I literally just told you what my position is. You're wrong. So
you said at 104 in your debate with Omni, the objectively moral thing is the best.
I get to tell you you're wrong. You're a dumbass. You don't get to strawman me.
I don't know why you're so upset about this. I'm being pretty polite to you. I'm being extremely polite to you while you're being demonstrably wrong.
All right. We gotta get this. But we gotta get this back on track. But
yes, like I've said like 10 times. Holy shit!
But Sinthe does deserve to get to finish his point. We have
not when he strawmans me. No one gets to finish their point if it's just a strawman. So if he's a strawman me, wastes my time, and he's a dumbass, I'm going to tell him he's a dumbass and get us back on track.
That's fair. And when you strawman me, I'll interrupt. Okay.
Fair. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
All right. So, but Sinthe said, like, the reason I bring this up is the best of all possible worlds up is because from my perspective, they are more likely to be right about morality. They are.
I never said that.
I didn't say you did.
You just said Sinthe said.
You said. Oh yeah. You said that they were not more likely to be right. Yeah, you said they were not more likely to be right about objective morality, right?
I said what?
That the world that's super technologically advanced is not more likely to be right about objective morality, something like that. Or you said they could be wrong or something.
They could be wrong. Yeah, I never said that they were more likely to be wrong.
I asked you, are they more likely to be right about objective morality?
I would say yes. They are more likely to be right. I believe that the system they'll use in the future, it seems that people are trending more and more towards my system. So this would probably be strong evidence they'll be right about morality.
All right. So in the future, they're more likely to be right about morality. So if we're trying to determine what is the correct usage of morality, we should probably go with their model, not ours, correct?
We don't know their model, so there's no way we could do that.
No, wasn't a part of the question. If we did, we're more likely to go with their model than ours.
If we did, it would likely be the case, yeah, that we should use the large, broad, we should do like logical deference to them, yeah.
Right. So
we don't know theirs, so we can't.
I didn't say we did. Not the point here. So if someone had a model that does seem to indicate what theirs will be, like if we had some model that predicts in the future the things that they will see and it gets testable predictions right, and so it's more likely to do that, should we go with that model?
If it was the case we had access to it, yes, but we don't, so we shouldn't.
Luckily we do. It's mine. Congratulations. So I've
no, it's not.
But so here's the difference here is that
even in your system you concede that we should do things which are immoral. You said this in Omni's debate.
Justified immoral actions.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then in that case we shouldn't use your moral system. So it makes sense that you're wrong and you've conceded the debate. Yes, it does.
There's no logic there. No.
We shouldn't use your moral system because we should do things that are under your system immoral.
That's a composition division fallacy, saying that there are some things that you should do that are immoral doesn't mean that you should do all things. And that
I didn't say that.
Whether or not we adopt my morality has nothing to do with
I never said you should do all immoral actions.
No.
I said we shouldn't use your moral system.
Right, which is a moral statement, and using a moral system isn't morality. So it's a composition division fallacy. So you're saying that because in your system, sometimes you should do immoral things, therefore we should not use your moral system, which isn't a moral thing. So you're dumb.
So it's just, this isn't anywhere close to the argument I just gave you. In the case of your moral system, not a composition division fallacy. In the case of the argument you're giving, there are things we should do that under your system are immoral, and thus we shouldn't do things based on whether or not they correspond to your system. So clearly, if there are things we should and shouldn't do, yes, it does.
There's not a logical argument.
That's not even. Well, yeah, you're right. I'm literally just like proof by citation. It's not a logical argument at all. I agree.
What is
it's just like I'm just quoting what you said.
Give me your premise conclusion of how you think.
It's proof by citation. It's not a premise conclusion.
I just citation here.
Yeah, I took your premise, slightly rephrased it, and suddenly you have an issue with it.
You're dumb. So now I need an argument.
You need to get your emotions in check.
Stop. You made an argument that we shouldn't use my model because my model says we should do things that are immoral.
No, your model says there are certain things which are immoral that we should do. And if that's
literally
the case,
a synonym of what I just said. You're an idiot.
Then we shouldn't do.
How?
No, it's absolutely different. One thing, the reasoning is one, and then we come to the other.
They literally are the same words in different points in the sentence, you idiot. So
yeah, different points in the sentence means there is different meaning there, Tom.
No, they're not. You can say the same sentence in different word order and it's still the same sentence. You're an idiot. Explain how.
No. Just because you can mix the orders of words up, Tom, and it can be a different sentence. Okay.
Yes, and it can be the same sentence. It can be synonyms. You're an idiot. Answer the question.
It's possible. Yes, Tom.
Yes,
that's not
it's
the
possible, which we literally just
did.
The
thing that I gave you, Tom.
Go back to the
Tom,
topic.
The example I gave is relevant to the topic.
No, it's not.
What? You tell me how it's irrelevant. I'll try my best to stay on topic for you, Tom.
You made an argument that because my model says we should do some things that are immoral, or that it labels as immoral, we should not adopt this model. That's an argument. There's no middle premise there. Like, my model says that the thing that is the least evil is the thing that we should do. And I label that as immoral.
Which is the least evil. And you label that as immoral.
Sure.
So all actions are always immoral.
No. Picking up a rock isn't immoral. You're an idiot.
Sure. So just because you claimed that I didn't watch any of your, you didn't claim that I watched any of your like past stuff. I usually don't like to bring up things that like people have said in past debates because I think it's usually unfair. But now that you're like challenging me on it, I think it's fair here.
What does this have to do with the topic? What does it just ask? What does it have to do with what I just asked?
Yeah. It's a debate you've had on the topic, right? So I'm going to bring up a claim you've made relevant to this. Like,
no, I want the question I literally just asked.
Oh, sorry. What is your question? So let me make sure I answer it.
You argued that because my model labels things as immoral and that we should do them, something along that lines, that we should not adopt my model. Now, this is a stupid, dumbass argument because my model, because yours agrees. Like, you agreed at the beginning that my model and yours predict that we should do the same things in many cases, right?
We should do the same things, yes. And your model, under your model, you should have my ethical system.
Wait. So our models prescribe the same things in many cases, correct?
Do you think, just for the record, do you think you have truth about what you believe? I mean, do you think you have capability to choose what you believe?
No.
You don't think you can choose what you believe?
No, I'm a determinist. I think everything's determined. What does this have to do with the topic?
Okay, so what I'm saying is like, you're determinist. So like anything you do necessarily would be like the best possible action you could do.
No.
You're a determinist.
Yes.
There's one action you could do.
You said you were going to answer the question. You haven't answered the question. We're still on this one question.
Well, yeah, this is a premise for my answer, but it's okay. We could just go on. I'll make sure to answer your question super directly. I'll give you like a yes or no, and then I'll elaborate.
Okay. So you said we should not adopt my model because it prescribes that we should do things that are immoral or something like that.
Yes.
Now, your model and my model, as you said in the beginning, prescribe the same things. Like both in the trolley problem, we say flip the switch, right? We agree, flip the switch. The difference is that I call it immoral and you call it moral.
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying that the only difference here, the reason we shouldn't adopt my model is because it gives a different label to the action, even though it prescribes the same action.
Do you think there's not different utility and using different definitions for different words? Like, don't you think you should use the word that's going to communicate your idea the most effectively?
Sure.
Okay, so then if you're using a word like immoral, which would apply to basically every single action, since it's not the best, we're not doing it in the best possible world.
It does not apply to every single action.
So you made the claim in your Omni debate that like the action you should, or the action which is moral, would be the one that you could do if you have infinite power, right? Sure. So we don't have infinite power, so there's no action that we could do that would ever include the trait of being done with infinite power.
No,
so there's no action that's moral.
So if somebody wants a piece of candy. If you have infinite power, the moral thing to do is to give them a piece of candy. I also have a piece of candy. I could also give them a piece of candy, and that's also moral. So having infinite power doesn't mean that literally nothing you could do is moral. It just means that it's a contingent thing that says if what you want is infinite candy, obviously I can't give you infinite candy. But I can do a moral thing, which is not the most moral thing, by giving you a piece of candy. So that you can still do moral actions, and they're not all immoral. Picking up a rock isn't immoral. They're amoral actions, and there are immoral actions.
In that case, if you had infinite power, you should reduce suffering as much as possible.
if
right?
people
Or you,
ask for
I'm
it.
not sure what your utility is, right? And you're for the weird consequentialist portion.
Uh,
Oh, you should
consent.
maximize preferences. Okay.
Consent. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so you should maximize preferences.
Consent.
Okay, you should. What do you mean by consent?
I
You
can
should
have a
consent?
preference that I want to smack you in the face, but allowing that would be immoral. So
A lot. So for example, if somebody wanted to smack you in the face and you were okay with letting them, you would like it would only be an issue if it violated your consent.
if I was okay with letting them, it wouldn't be a violation of consent.
Okay. So as long as it doesn't violate your consent, then it'd be fine.
Yes. So like if
Okay.
if you said I'd like to slap you in the face, and I was like, okay, then it wouldn't be immoral. It would be perfectly consensual.
So allowing people to die in the trolley problem, you think would violate their consent, correct?
Presumably, yes.
Okay, because they don't wish to die. In the case of
Presumably.
allowing people to die who are like starving to death in Africa currently, right? This would violate their consent.
Yes. Presumably.
Okay, and there are currently people starving to death in Africa, right?
Yes.
And you're currently allowing it.
Well, no, I didn't cause it. So allowing it and causing it are separate things.
You didn't cause the train to go down the train tracks,
Right.
okay? But you'd still be allowing them, right, to die if you didn't pull the lever.
Well, allowing is a separate issue here. So if you allowing them, like you, obviously you didn't cause the train track, so you didn't kill the 5 people. So would it be moral, if you had all powerful, would it be moral to save all starving people? Yes.
Okay, if you had infinite power, it would be moral, but that's not the question I asked you.
I'm trying to figure out what your question is relative to the all powerful.
Yeah, it would in the same way that you currently allowing people to die in Africa violates their consent. That would also be true for the example you already agree with of you allowing the train to run over the 5 people.
I'm not violating their consent. Like nature.
You're
is
not, but you're
violating
allowing it to be. Yeah, and you're allowing it to happen.
Allowing isn't immoral. So allowing, like if someone else was beating you to death and me not stopping them isn't immoral because I didn't do it. It's
So
amoral.
then letting the trolley run over
Would be
run over
amoral.
5 people would be okay. You said in your Omni debate it was immoral. The running over, like letting the 5 people get run over and pulling the lever.
An
both the immoral
immoral
actions.
thing occurs because someone's consent is violated, but it's not you're doing the immoral. So yes,
Okay, it wouldn't
an
be immoral to
thing
do it.
happens.
Okay.
So just clarify. There's a difference between
Yeah, sure.
an immoral thing happening and you doing an immoral thing.
I agree. This isn't the claim that you made in the past, but
Yes, it is. So in relevance to the
I
trolley
could quote you
problem,
directly what you've said it.
then you misunderstood it. So in the trolley problem,
Well,
an
you misspoke.
immoral thing happens, which is somebody dies without their consent. If you don't have the obligation to flip the switch, which I have explained this before in many of my videos, which obviously didn't watch, then you wouldn't be the one at fault. You would be doing an amoral action, even though an immoral action occurred in the scenario. It wasn't you who did it.
So you think in this case you should do the immoral action, not the one that's morally neutral.
Yes, because there's 5 moral actions, which is saving the 5 moral people, saving the 5 people.
Okay, you think saving the 5 people would be the moral action there. So in the
Well,
same
no,
sense,
there's
you
5 moral actions. You've saved 5 lives
Yes.
and killed 1.
Yes.
1 immoral, 5 moral. Do the 5 moral things.
okay. So in the world we currently exist in, I guess then the thing that you should do is going to be the one that brings the most people, the most preferences fulfilled overall, because obviously nature violates their consent otherwise. In the case of these people dying in Africa, obviously this would be like maximizing their preferences to you. If this is the case, if your goal is to maximize preferences,
Again,
it's
I never
probably
said
good.
maximize preferences. That's not a thing. I said
Well,
consent.
necessarily maximizing preferences does do what you're asking for, because obviously in the case of people who have preferences. Hold on, let me explain. Right before you can't really address an argument you haven't heard. In the
have
case
heard
of the,
this.
okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, preferences, remember, I can have the preference for harming you, but if you don't consent to it, then it would be immoral, so it's not about maximizing preferences.
So in the case of you having this preference, right? It's not like I understand what you're saying in this instance, right? But in the case of like people who are incapable of being able to slap somebody, they want the experience of slapping someone, right? This is something that like under your worldview, you should like if you had infinite power, you fulfill this experience even if they don't know it's true, right?
No, not if they wanted to actually have the actual experience of slapping people. Like if they were okay with it being a delusion, then it would be fine.
Do you think there's a difference between preferring something and or preferring something that actually happens and like preferring the experience of it happening?
Yes.
Okay. How do you think somebody could ever like have access to whether or not it did or didn't happen?
Well, whether or not they have epistemic access is irrelevant. So like I would prefer, like Christians would prefer that heaven was real and actually go to heaven, but they wouldn't be able to tell the difference if we put them in the matrix. But they would still prefer it to be real. So you can definitely prefer the real thing as opposed to just the experience.
I agree you can, right? But it's always the case that like would you also prefer the experience of it happening for any person who prefers a certain thing? They would also prefer to experience that the thing is true, right? They prefer for it to be true.
Yes.
Okay. So in the case of what we ought do, it's going to be generally in the real world. It seems to still strongly correlate. Even if you think there's like some niche hypothetical case in the real world, it seems to be that it's just the case that it would be the case that like you're trying to maximize preferences.
Well, no, because preferences, again, I can have the preference to harm you. This is why I say I maximize consent, because consent applies 100% to what I'm doing. Preferences applies minimally to what I'm doing, because actually a lot of what people prefer is to harm other people. So no, preference does not correspond to my model. Consent does correspond to my model.
Okay, so just for the sake of like not having the same argument made over and over again in regards to the preference versus consent thing, I'll just grant it because I think the same argument that I'm about to make still applies. If your goal is to maximize consent and not preferences, then in this case, the actions you should do if you want to effectively maximize consent would probably be to promote the view that what is moral is what maximizes consent, and what's immoral is what doesn't maximize consent.
Sure.
Okay, so to like what we should do if we have any choice over our beliefs whatsoever, even like in your deterministic sort of compatibilist kind of idea of choice, in the same way we call any action what you should do, right? We should have the belief morally that it's that the actions which are the most moral are the ones that seem to maximize consent, and the ones that are immoral are the ones that don't maximize consent.
No, so what we should do and what counts as objectively moral are two separate things. So even though flipping the lever maximizes...
Oh, I didn't make any statements about what is objectively moral. I said you should believe that this is what's objectively moral.
Yeah,
your system.
That's the thing. We should not believe what's objectively moral, but we should do what maximizes consent. So I agree we should do pragmatically what maximizes consent, but we should not believe that that's the objectively moral thing.
And it would maximize consent. Well, you say this, right? But we should believe this, since that promoting that view, that maximizing consent is what's moral, and not maximizing consent is immoral, would, as a view, if you held that and perpetuated that across society and advocated for it, this would maximize consent.
No, it wouldn't be any different here. So you can believe you should do what would maximize consent without believing it's objectively moral, because you know what's objectively moral would be perfect consent. So if you know objective morality would be 0 involuntary impositions, and you're doing an action like flipping the switch, which causes an involuntary imposition, you know you're maximizing consent because you're saving 4 people, even though you're causing an immoral thing. So you can tell the difference between knowing that you want to maximize consent and knowing that that's not objective morality because you're still causing 1 involuntary imposition. So no, you don't need to, you can still say that you should maximize consent without recognizing that it's objective morality.
You should say that last part again.
You can know that you should maximize consent even at the cost of a violation of consent, but know at the same time that isn't objective morality. It's not perfectly moral. There's still another standard of perfect morality above that, and you're not meeting that because you are violating that one guy's consent who you've killed.
Do you think if you told the average person there are times when you have the choice between a morally neutral action and an immoral action, and you should choose the immoral action, this would be generally like intuitive to this person? They would understand this easily?
If you qualify that someone else is going to commit an immoral action, you're going to stop them by doing an immoral action to them, yes.
You think the average person would say you think if the average person heard you should sometimes do immoral actions, this would be intuitive to them?
Yes. So if you give them an option, you have the option of killing and torturing this one guy, and if you don't,
no, I agree that I agree the actual action you should do is intuitive. I'm saying like this statement isn't.
I'm saying you have 2 options. You can do an amoral action of not torturing baby Hitler to death, or you can do an immoral action of torturing baby Hitler to death. Most people are like, yeah, torture baby Hitler to death. They know it's an immoral action, but they're still going to choose to do it over the amoral action of not killing baby Hitler.
So I agree that people would choose this, right? I think the average person would say this is the moral action, not intuitively understand it's immoral.
Well,
or they would say you shouldn't do it. In the case of the average deontologist, right?
The average person with a pretty... question was, if some given choice between an immoral action and an amoral action, would people intuitively
No, it
choose...
wasn't.
I thought that's what it was.
You should listen closer.
Pretty sure that's what you asked. You asked,
no, it wasn't. You can go
intuitively
if you want.
If
you want, I've looked, it's completely acceptable at some point. If you want to review the pod, you'll understand that every time I've claimed I said something, I was correct. Every time I've claimed you said something, I was correct. In this case, that wasn't my question.
No, you were correct. Incorrect all of the time. Like I know for a fact what you said. I think was what you just asked. What I said.
You know,
ask your question. Go ahead, ask your question. Let's get back on track. Ask your question.
Yeah, I would love to get back on track. Yeah, no. In the case of the average person, would they view this statement when you say the statement? There are sometimes actions which are immoral to do.
Could you slow so I can type this out?
Sure.
Average person. Go ahead.
Sure. So the average person, would they view it as intuitive that there are sometimes actions, they viewed the statement, right? There are sometimes actions which are immoral that you should do. And they hear that statement just on its own, would they view that as intuitive?
That you should do. So you
should do immoral actions.
Amoral actions in there somewhere. I don't know where you took that out. It seems like you're changing your question. Would somebody see if there's immoral actions that they should do?
Go ahead.
No.
The answer is no. They wouldn't think that it's intuitive.
Right.
Okay. So if you want to convince the average person to do more moral actions, it's usually best to try to keep things simple, right? If your actions are based on, for example, or to do the actions you should do. I'm sorry. I want to make sure I'm not strawmanning you. You don't think people should do moral actions. You think that there's some times where they should and sometimes they shouldn't. So in the case of somebody, if you want to get them to do the... Oh, go ahead. Clarify.
So moral actions, yes, you should do moral actions if you want to use should language. I don't like oughts, but yeah, do moral actions.
You think there aren't cases where you should do things that are immoral, or sorry, you think there are cases where you shouldn't? You don't think there are cases where you shouldn't do what you qualify as
justified moral actions? You're asking about justified moral actions, something like that?
No, just moral actions.
Just moral actions?
Moral actions, not justified moral actions. This isn't confusing. Or if it is,
what I think you're asking is like there are justified immoral actions. So there are times you should do immoral actions, and I think you're trying to make a parallel to the moral action, saying there are times you shouldn't do moral actions or something like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so that would be a justified moral, because I call these justified immoral actions.
I know. I know that's what you're calling them, right?
So that would be called a justified moral action in my mind.
I know what you're calling them.
You're asking about justified moral actions.
I'm not asking should you do justified moral actions. I'm asking in the case of justified moral actions.
You're asking are there? What are they?
Yeah, there are some unjustified moral actions. You're asking about
justified moral actions, like I said 10 minutes ago.
Unjustified moral actions.
Unjustified.
Yeah, pay closer attention because you shouldn't do them.
Unjustified. No, I'd say there are justified moral actions. Like there's an action that you think
That's not what I asked.
What?
I didn't ask that.
What you're asking is not a mirror in my model. In my model, there's not unjustified moral actions. There are justified moral actions. Actions that you think are moral but may not be, but you're going to do them anyway.
So you're saying you should in the trolley problem, kill, you should kill the one to save 5 in the trolley problem?
Sure.
Okay. And you shouldn't do otherwise, right?
Shouldn't do otherwise.
You should not do what you should not do. It's just this is just like
I have no idea what you're asking. Completely incoherent.
This is a pretty I don't know. I thought this was a clear question. In the case of the trolley problem, you should pull the lever, right?
Sure.
And you shouldn't not pull the lever, right?
Sure.
Okay. So you understand that now, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Actually, no, that would be amoral. So that would be wrong. So it would be amoral to not pull the lever. It wouldn't be something you should not do.
TJump, if you can't understand your own moral system, the average person can't. No,
I can't understand the gibberish coming out of your mouth because you're an idiot. I understand my moral system.
It's not gibberish at all. It's your system.
It's complete gibberish. This is your model. Your model's what you're saying. Literally, the sentences you're saying are dumb as shit. Not pulling the lever is
your system's
amoral.
Just dumb.
Not more.
You got a dumb, hard to understand system.
Going back to the topic because you're an idiot. Not pulling the lever is amoral.
I'm the one moving off the topic. Correct.
Not pulling the lever is amoral. You have not done an immoral action if you don't pull the lever.
Okay. You haven't done an immoral action if you don't pull the lever, but we're talking about shoulds and should nots, which you agree are different than moral and immoral, right?
Shoulds usually refer to moral and immoral in the context of a moral conversation. In this conversation, pulling the lever, you have done one immoral action. You've killed a guy, and you've saved 5. You have done these actions. If you don't pull the lever...
This is different from your past statement.
No, it's not. You're a dumbass.
It is.
Don't strawman me. You're a dumbass. Listen to the actual
It's not a strawman. I promise it's not a strawman. I promise it's not.
You're a dumbass.
I guarantee. 104 in your debate with my good friend Omni, you say verbatim, the objectively moral thing is the best action you can do with infinite power, and you say at 33 seconds, objectively immoral to kill one to save 5, and they should do it.
Again, you're a dumbass. You're not putting this in the context of the debate. So you being a dumbass and misquoting me out of context, as obviously. So you can say statements that seem on their face value to be contradictory, but then when you put them in the context of the debate, like, oh, they're not. So my model is the same answer I've given every single debate. Not pulling the lever is amoral. But you should pull the lever because you're saving 5 lives. So you're generating moral actions. There is still an immoral action that has occurred there. Like I said before, when you asked this before, because you're a dumbass. Yes, 5 people die, which is 5 immoral actions if you don't pull the switch, but you didn't do them. So yes, you should pull the switch to prevent those 5 immoral actions. It isn't you doing those immoral actions. You're just a dumbass who doesn't understand the model. But you're going back to your question. Let's get back on topic. You asked the shouldn't thingy.
Go ahead.
The shouldn't thingy.
Did you get it?
Should you pull the switch? Yes. Should you not pull the switch? No. That is super fucking confusing. Your dumbass phrasing of that is very fucking confusing. But if you don't pull the switch, it's amoral. You're not immoral for pulling the switch.
What is should short for?
What is should short for?
Yeah.
I don't know. You should do it. I don't know how to like.
That's all right. You don't have to answer that. What about should not?
Should not.
Yeah.
Shouldn't
If you want
is
to
short
shorten
for
it,
should
you
not.
turn it to shouldn't. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So in the case of shouldn't, that means should not.
Yes.
Right. So if it's not the case that you should do something, you shouldn't do that.
Right, and I'm saying that's wrong. So you are not immoral for pulling the switch. So you
I didn't say anything about you being an immoral person, right?
well,
We
I'm
both
using
agreed
that. I'm trying to filter out all your should nots bullshit. So instead of
It's
saying it
only
in that
two of them.
dumbass phrasing, or if I say
It's only-
you should
it's only
not
two
do,
nots.
you should not should you not no. There's 3 negatives in there. It's a really confusing dumbass phrasing
No,
that you
there
thought
weren't
of.
3. There were 2. There were 2.
No,
Okay.
my answer. I'm including my answer in there. So if you
Okay,
should not
that's-
do something, if I say no that you should not do something, that's 3 negatives. You're an idiot. So let's remove the shoulds, and I can just give you the
Yes.
answer. Not pulling the switch is amoral.
Okay, but you don't think that should and should not are based on moral and immoral? You think there are actions you should do that are you? They do?
Yes, in many contexts, not all contexts.
Okay, all right. That's different than what you said earlier, but that's
What?
good enough for me.
I never
if the
said
action
that.
you
Obviously, should and moral are tied in. I literally
you
said in the
have.
context of morality, should usually implies moral. I said that like 5
Okay.
minutes ago.
I
You're
can,
an idiot.
That works for me. That works for me. Okay.
Yes.
So if you should do, then the actions you should do in that context, you should pull the lever, right?
Yes, you said that too.
Okay, and that's the moral action is to pull the lever, right?
No, it'd be 1 immoral action, 5 moral actions.
So then should doesn't mean the same thing as moral.
No, in language, people typically use the word should to imply moral. It doesn't necessarily mean it's
Did
correct.
you? Okay, how
Yes,
about this?
in
Let's have
language,
one
I also
consistent-
usually use those in the same context because it makes
TJump,
sense in conversation.
is there any way I can compel you to use one consistent definition of should and one consistent definition of moral during this conversation?
One consistent definition of should. No, it's like saying objective. There's each word has multiple different usages. So,
Yeah, but just for the sake of the conversation, can I please just get you to narrow down a definition on this? It's impossible to communicate with you if you're constantly changing your definition, so you can pretend there's not a contradiction.
no, I'm trying to mirror my definition to the most commonly used definition, so it's coherent
Okay.
in a conversation, which is what people normally do. This is not hard.
What?
Like, no one has
nice,
problems.
Good
with this.
idea. What's the most commonly used definition of moral? Is it yours?
No.
Okay, so you should use that one, right? In a
If I was
conversation, that's
trying
what
to
people normally do.
convey morality in the common sense, yes. But since I'm specifically saying mine is different and I think this one's better, then no, because that would be fucking stupid. If I'm
Why
trying
not
to
call it
advocate
something
for a
different
better
than morality
definition,
then?
because I think it's what corresponds to the phenomenon that are the things we refer to as moral.
That we refer to as moral? It
Yes.
clearly doesn't. If it's not what
No,
the person, the
we-
average
we-
person believes is
everyone,
moral.
everyone refers to moral, which is moral intuition, moral progress. Those things are what we refer to as moral. And then if this phenomenon explains those things, then it is a better usage of the word than a colloquial. Look, because the word moral conveys the phenomenon plus a theory. So the
To understand
theory,
what people genuinely think moral means, we have to use a different definition than what they think moral means. This is just
no,
ridiculous.
that's a straw man.
TJump.
So
This is,
no, that's a straw man.
it's a silly
So
argument.
Stop. So what most
Oh,
people
I'm
mean
sorry.
by
I'm
moral
sorry. Go ahead.
is a phenomenon plus a theory. Now I'm saying the phenomenon is correct, the theory is wrong. So the word moral, as applied to the phenomenon, is better described with a different theory. Well, the same phenomenon, different theory. Like, this is not hard to understand. No one in philosophy has a hard time understanding this.
So when you say moral, the phenomenon, right? Not moral the theory, but moral the phenomenon. What do you think that is?
Moral intuition, moral progress. The individual examples that we use the word moral to refer to.
So the idea is explaining people's intuitions.
No,
people's
no.
intuitions are
Specifically,
that's the
instances
phenomenon. You're using the theory to explain it.
and moral progress.
Then the answer is yes, not no.
It's more than that.
Okay. So part of it would be the
Yes.
intuitions.
Part of it, yes.
Okay. Intuitions are based on people's minds, right?
Sure.
Okay. So then it's not mind independent, and your idea isn't objective.
No. So again, the phenomenon, like when I see a color, the color red on your screen, that's a subjective experience. I'm seeing the color red. Now that phenomenon may be explained purely by psychology, like there's no objective color red there, or it could be explained by an objective feature of the world. So obviously the individual example is a subjective experience, but that doesn't mean that the thing itself is subjective. You're a dumbass.
So if you just said the phenomenon could be subjective
Yes.
or it could be
Yes.
objective. In the
Yes.
case of it being explained by psychology, you think it would be subjective.
Yes.
Intuitions are psychology.
Yes, but again, the thing they correspond to may be objective. So
What
the
is the-
intuitions, obviously.
Maybe?
Yeah, so it's like color. If I see, or no, use a better example, like a mirage. Like if I'm standing in a desert on a big mountain and I see a mirage of an ocean, the ocean may be there or it may not be there. Now my subjective experience is clearly a product of my mind, my intuition, my visual senses, all in my mind. But they may or may not correspond to something outside of that. So the intuition or the sense experience is obviously subjective, but we want to know if that is caused by an objective feature of the world. So the phenomenon, the sense experience, is subjective. Yes. Does that mean that the thing itself is subjective? No, it could still actually be there.
I agree. The thing could be there, but you said the thing itself, the phenomenon itself, was intuition and moral progress.
Yeah, like me seeing an oasis. That's the phenomenon. I see an oasis. That's a subjective phenomenon.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
This would mean it's a subjective phenomenon, and what we're describing with a theory would be a subjective thing. If we're describing the psychology of seeing mirages,
Again,
we'd be describing a subjective experience.
Right. We're describing the subjective experience, and we're saying my hypothesis is that subjective experience is caused by an actual ocean over there. That's a hypothesis. Okay. The hypothesis is not saying that because the subjective experience is subjective, therefore the thing you're experiencing is subjective. No, it's saying that because you have subjective experience, this phenomenon can be explained by an actually existing ocean.
So for a guy who seems to claim to believe in like objective morality, it seems like you are completely agnostic on whether morality is actually explained by something objective.
Yeah, it's a hypothesis. I never said I could prove it. If I could prove it, I'd have a Nobel Prize. So it's a hypothesis.
It seems like you don't even have evidence for it.
I do have evidence for it. It's moral. It explains the evidence of moral intuition and moral progress. It answers the moral dilemmas and the paradoxes, and it makes predictable predictions. Now, obviously, I haven't confirmed the predictions. If I had, I'd have a Nobel Prize.
So you think something being true only in like one world would still be subjective?
I don't know what
you claim this during this. You claim this during the debate. You think if something is like only true in one world, it would be subjective under your definition of subjective. So in this case, if it's only true in the best possible worlds, it would still be subjective.
If it was only true in one world and false in other worlds, then it would be subjectively true.
Yes.
Isn't that what you asked?
Yes.
So yeah, so if morality was only
I don't know
true,
why you're having trouble understanding this. For a guy who claims to be so smart, you seem to have really, really trouble understanding simple
because
statements.
you talk like a moron. So try to explain it better.
I think, well, if you're claiming I'm talking like a moron, then you talking in a way that like completely diverges from the average person is insane to me.
Explain the question.
What part of it needs to be explained? You already answered it.
You asked a question, and then I said I don't know.
Yes.
And so what was the question?
You didn't say you don't know.
I don't know. Ask your question again. What?
Okay. TJump. It's really difficult to have this conversation if you can't remember the words you said. Right. I'm going to try my best. Right. To at least remind you of the things that I said.
You being a dumbass is not my problem. It's just you being a dumbass. Well, what's your question?
Definitely, you forgetting what's going on in the conversation.
You being a dumbass, not my problem. Ask the question.
Sure. So in the case of your moral system, TJump, if you're saying the actions we should do are what corresponds to what is moral, and you're also saying
you were on a question.
It wasn't the question. You're correct. You already answered the question. Moving on.
Well, okay. Sure.
Unless you have an issue with it. You have an issue with the question?
I didn't understand what your question was, so I can't be sure if I answered it or not. You were asking something about subjectivity and objectivity. So like something can be objectively true, like a rock exists in this world but doesn't exist in this world. The rock is objectively true, sure. But if they're saying that there's an objective morality,
objectively true,
like it exists, like
objectively real.
Yes, real.
Okay,
truth is that which corresponds to reality. So real means
truth
yes.
corresponds to reality. Doesn't mean the truth is what is real, right?
That's literally what that means.
No, correspondence to reality would mean it corresponds to reality, not like whatever is reality would be like. If I say chair, this isn't like a true or a false statement. If I say
You're
pencil,
such an
that's
idiot.
true or false.
Oh my God, principle of charity. To say something true is real is literally a shorthand.
You can't claim principle of charity when you're constantly calling the other person an idiot. I'm sorry, buddy. This doesn't work.
This isn't me. I didn't invent this. You're just a dumbass who doesn't know basic philosophy. Wait.
I'm a dumbass, but I'm not being charitable enough. You're so right, TJump. You're the victim.
You're a dumbass. So in philosophy, if you say it is real and it is true, those two can be used as synonyms. It is all the time in papers. You don't need to specify that true refers to a proposition which refers to what is real. That's just a shorthand. You're a fucking dumbass.
No, I understand truth corresponds to reality. It's just rock isn't true or false.
No. Again, this is why you're a dumbass. So in philosophy, you can say, yes, that thing existing is a true thing. That's fine because it's a shorthand for saying that the sentence which expresses its existence is true. You're a dumbass.
I have a sneaky suspicion that if I ask you for some evidence of this being the way it's used in philosophy, you'll cite me a Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy page that doesn't exist like you did with Omni. So I won't do that. All right?
You're a dumbass. Again, all of the Stanford Encyclopedia pages I listed, I literally give the reference to. They all exist. You're a dumbass.
Sorry.
Can we go back to the actual point, dumbass?
Yeah. Sure.
You asked something about subjective and objective.
Sorry, let me be more charitable to you, okay? So in the case of your
principle
system,
of charity,
right?
Basic philosophy.
Do you believe that you should do actions which are sometimes immoral?
Sure.
Okay, you should sometimes do immoral actions, right?
Yep.
Okay. So is it the case that you should not sometimes do moral actions?
Maybe.
Maybe?
Yeah, so like there could be an action which you think is moral, but you aren't sure. Like if you're friend leaves his door open and you don't know if he wanted it open or not. Should you close his door? There's a probability there. There's like, what is the percent that he wanted it to be open? What is the percent he did not want it to be open? If the percent that he wanted it open is 60%, then you probably shouldn't close his door, even though it might be a moral action.
Okay. So there are some times where you shouldn't do a moral action. The answer is yes.
Sure.
Okay. So you think this corresponds to how people generally use the word moral?
No, because you're conflating the word should in there, which has multiple definitions.
Okay, which definition do you want to use for the sake of this discussion? I'll stick to that one definition.
One word. Let's just stick to moral or immoral, not add in moral and should, because they're conflating definitions. Just use one word, moral or should, not both.
So the issue is there are issues like with the way that you're saying like certain things you should do are immoral. If you say this, and then it's like it's reasonable for me to critique the fact there's like an incongruence there. You say that you should just use one word because they're basically synonyms. People intuitively but then you say there are times you shouldn't do the moral. Hold on, no, you wait. Okay, so in the case of the statements you're saying, right? If you're saying like there are sometimes words or there are sometimes things that you should do that are immoral and some things you shouldn't do that are moral, and then you're going on to say like you should just use one word because they're synonyms.
No, you're
clearly not.
So again, your argument is, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems that you're saying there is an intuitive difference between the words should and moral as the way random individual people use them.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Okay, how's that wrong?
The average person uses those the exact same way. If you want to explain what the average person refers to when they're referring to moral.
Okay, so you should have shut up and let me finish the argument. So, I'm
sorry. Let's not clarify. You said correct me if I'm wrong, and then you were wrong.
Right. So maybe you should have shut up and actually listened to the end of the sentence, which is like
you're so upset.
Let's go back, dumbass. The way should and moral are used by the intuitions of people and in my model. Do you see how that last part of the sentence kind of clarifies it, dumbass? Like, I was
the last part of it. I have no idea how it clarifies it.
So
are you okay?
Your argument is that there is a difference between the intuitive usage of the word should and moral and how they apply to my model.
There's an intuitive difference between the uses of should and moral and how it applies to your model, yes, but not how the average person uses the word should and moral.
I was right. Holy shit. That was the whole point. So that you want to say it again? I'll get you to say I'm right again. So there is a difference between how the intuitive understanding of should and moral are in the average people and how it corresponds to my model. Right?
There's not a difference between how the average person views should and moral. But
that's not what I said. You're a dumbass. I said there's a difference between how they intuitively understand
what you're trying to say.
And
I understand what you're struggling to say, TJump.
Yes, then you're a dumbass because I was right the entire time. So
you were not right. You said correct me if I was wrong, and then you said something I don't believe.
And then you literally said I was right in the next sentence. So let's go back to the argument.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you literally did. So let's go back to the argument.
Go ahead.
You said that your argument is that there is a distinction between the intuitive usages as most people use these two words and how they are used in my model.
There's an intuitive difference between moral and how you use the word moral. You use the word should in the same way the average
person
uses
That's literally
the word
what I just said, dumbass. So there's an intuitive difference between how people normally use these words.
Then I answered your question. You asked me a question. You didn't say something.
I was looking for like a yes or a no here. So yes or a no.
Okay, now you understand the answer is yes, right?
Okay,
it's the same thing that you just said.
Thank you.
So
you did say yes. So every time I said you said yes, I was right again. Okay.
You're spasming out.
Let's go back on topic. So the only thing, like, people's intuitions can be wrong, can't they?
Intuitions can be wrong about morals?
Yes.
If what you're describing when you say moral is an intuitive phenomenon, then no.
Then you're a dumbass. Composition division fallacy. So can some people be right, some people's intuitions be right, and some people's intuitions be wrong?
The answer to is some people's intuitions sometimes wrong? Yes, but not when it's about intuitions. Dumbass.
So you think people can't be wrong when they think about what their intuition is about other people's intuitions? Like, you're a dumbass.
No, I don't think the average person's intuitions about morals are about other people's intuitions.
Literally is kind of a thing, but irrelevant. So,
no, it isn't.
No,
not irrelevant. Substantiate that.
Let's try to go back to the point. So
not irrelevant. Substantiate that.
Try to go back to the point. So the point.
Let's run away from the thing you said again. Classic TJump. Tom jumping away. Go ahead.
Come on, kitty. Come on, kitty. Like, focus your little tiny brain here. Let's go. So the point I was making before, as I said, like, can people's intuitions about morality be wrong? So people have an intuition that moral applies to this set of beliefs. Can they be wrong?
Can they be wrong if their intuitions are about somebody's belief?
No. I'll say it again because your tiny little kid brain doesn't understand this.
Is the question already answered?
People have a set of moral beliefs. They have an intuition that these are the moral actions. And can they be wrong? Can there be more? Can there be less?
Could they be wrong? If moral action is defined as an intuition, then no, they can't be wrong.
This is why
You
we
can't be
shouldn't
wrong about-
use his model, because he's a dumbass. Like, obviously, any rational human
Nobody is
being,
following along with you right now.
any
TJump.
rational human being. So person A has a belief about morality. They think a Christian thinks it's moral to stone the gays. Could they be wrong?
Could they be wrong about morality? If they're describing their intuitions, then they wouldn't be wrong, right? If that's what morals are. If morals are something other than intuitions, they could be wrong.
So this is why we shouldn't adopt his dumbass morality, because he just said, no, a Christian is not wrong if they morally think it's right to stone gays. Like,
No,
clearly
I
you
don't
have
think
a
that
dumbass
morality describes intuitions. You do.
No, I don't. I think morality is objective. It describes an existing thing. Intuitions are the phenomenon that we're describing.
Yes. That's the phenomenon you're describing when you say moral.
You dumbass.
Yes.
I explained this before.
Okay,
Dumbass,
when are we describing that phenomenon?
Dumbass, shut up and listen.
When are we describing that phenomenon?
Stop, dumbass.
When are we describing that
dumbass,
phenomenon?
Shut up.
Just answer the question.
Dumbass,
When are we describing that
dumbass,
phenomenon?
Shut up. Shut up, dumbass.
When are we describing that
Dumbass,
phenomenon?
Shut up. I'm not going to let you
I
speak
need an answer
until
to this
I get finished.
question.
Dumbass,
Well,
shut
I'm
up
just
and
going to
let me
continue to
finish.
speak.
Dumbass, shut up and finish. So,
Good.
as
How
I
about
said
this?
before, the
Just answer my question.
phenomenon-
I'll let you talk as
dumbass,
long as you
shut
need
the
to.
fuck up.
Hang on.
So,
Darren,
as
I'm
I
just going
said
to
before-
interject in the Damassathon for 1 second, one quick second, right? And we'll just try to get a little bit of order back into the debate. I'm sorry I wrecked the Damassathon flow. I was enjoying it. We'll let TJump finish his flow, and then we'll move over to Sinthe. Go ahead.
Okay, so this complete dumbass moron doesn't understand the difference between a phenomenon and the thing which causes the phenomenon. As I mentioned in the analogy before, this dumbass clearly didn't understand that if you see a mirage in the distance, the phenomenon of you seeing the mirage is clearly different from the thing which causes the phenomenon. The phenomenon of morality is our intuitions, which is like the thing we're seeing. It's the mirage. The mirage is not morality. The intuition is not morality. The intuition is the phenomenon which we use to describe the term morality, which could be like a law of nature. That's what I think it is. I think morality is a law of nature. A law of nature is the ocean, and the phenomenon that we experience through our intuitions is a result of the existing ocean. So no, the morality itself is not the same as the phenomenon of the intuitions, you dumbass. This is not hard.
Okay, so TJump, when you say morality, you're not describing the phenomenon, which is intuitions.
Yeah, the phenomenon is the result of the thing that exists.
Plus their moral whatever. I think you said moral progress. Yeah, this is not what you're describing when you say morality.
Those are the phenomenon caused by morality. Like a vision is
caused by
caused by a
morality.
mirage.
And this is a hypothesis that you have what arguments for?
All of the ones I present in my videos. What does this have to do with the topic?
Present one in the topic.
What does this have to do with the topic of the video? Like,
because the debate, the whole debate's been about is your system better describing objective morality?
Yeah, my usage of the words and terms is better than yours, regardless of whether or not it ontologically can be proven to exist. So, what does that have to do with the topic?
So I guess it's just like a circular argument. You're like making the same claim, like your moral system is better, right? Like this is ridiculous.
I made the argument that my usage of morality is better because mine is based off of a more holistic approach to morality. So I said that if we get to a technological age of where we have infinite resources, the way they assess morality is better than ours. Here is a model that I think will predict that. Therefore, this is a way to better assess morality than our current subjective approach, which is what you're doing.
So why would in their system they not be utilitarians, given that people are trending more and more towards utilitarianism?
Why would they not be? I don't know enough about utilitarianism to answer that exactly. So I would say that in their system, they would disagree that it's always moral to flip the switch or whatever.
They would say it's always moral to flip the switch in their morality.
Not. So I'd say they're going to disagree with your assessment of morality today.
So why would these super intelligent people disagree?
Because in their system, any involuntary imposition of will is going to be seen as immoral, and so it won't be seen as moral to flip the switch.
You think a system that's going to be the system of the future, you think is one in which the whole point is not to have any involuntary imposition of will?
Yes.
Can you point me to any kind of empirical data that shows that there's some kind of trend towards that?
Moral progress.
Moral progress seems to not be trending towards that.
Yes, it does. What are you talking about?
No, it seems that people are coming more and more closer to a utilitarian worldview over time. It seems like if you look at the average person, it seems like they're less and less in favor of, I guess this is something similar to the NAP almost.
Utilitarianism actually fails
it is.
in a lot of cases because many people think that it's moral to do things that we can't do, like just feed everyone or whatever, even if we didn't have enough resources, or give everyone homes, even if it would cause the economy to collapse. No, we're not saying.
No, I don't think so.
liberalism, the whole thing. Like, yeah, it is. It's literally a thing. But our moral
liberalism.
Wait. Different topic.
That's where
different
wait,
topic.
liberalism. If you're hold on, yeah, you brought it up, right? So don't bring up things that you think are irrelevant to the discussion. So in the case of liberalism, this was founded by utilitarians in its current form, like
Genetic
J.S. Mill
fallacy.
and
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, and the current view within, so this means liberalism, part of the liberal ideology, would be utilitarianism.
Yeah, except
You
the
can't
vast
see this
majority of
contrast between
liberals
the
want
two.
to advocate for things which aren't actually possible because you don't have
The
the free
vast
to do
majority
it.
of liberals
So,
seem to have utilitarian intuitions, and they don't seem to advocate for things that they don't think are possible.
They definitely
think these are
don't.
possible.
That's completely contradictory to everything in psychology and sociology. They do not have utilitarian intuitions.
Substantiate that.
So most liberals, as we say, advocate for things as moral regardless of whether or not they're possible. They're possibility. Utilitarianism is based on our current possibilities, current limited possibilities. Liberals do not base things based off of our current possibilities. They acknowledge that we should do things beyond our current means. So utilitarianism is wrong here exactly for that reason, is that we acknowledge morality is true independent of our current limitations. And if you're basing it off of our current limitations, it's not relevant to what is objectively moral.
So I guess could I ask you for like an example, I guess, of a thing a liberal thinks isn't possible, but what would be moral to do, even if it's not possible?
Let's see.
Seems like ought implies can is pretty common belief.
Ought implies can? No, actually not even in philosophy, but that has nothing to do with
yes, it
liberal
is.
morals.
Especially within philosophy. It's
Actually
very common.
not. It's actually pretty rejected in a lot of moral philosophy.
No, we could look at polling data. We could look at polling data.
Like,
I'm sorry,
from
we
the
could look
Phil
at polling data
surveys, from the Phil
philosophers.
surveys paper, or from the Stanford
I
Encyclopedia?
think this is polling. I think this is absolutely polling data.
Yeah. Go ahead. Find me a polling data on ought implies can. Go ahead. I'll wait.
So the polling data on specifically ought implies can
Yes,
things
go
are
for
like
it.
pretty analogous to it. Like
So you can't find anything, so you're making shit up. Oh,
No, I didn't.
I'm
You should
sorry,
listen
you're
closer.
making shit up. Oh,
I think you misheard me, buddy. You should listen closer.
The average
A Kantian would think that ought implies can.
Well, if they're a Kantian, probably, sure, maybe. No,
Okay.
actually not necessarily, because they do
Are
disagree.
you're not sure? So maybe you should hold back a bit before you claim I'm
Yeah,
making
except
shit
you
up.
made the claim this was poll data, and you have no polls. Where are the polls? So you're full of shit.
I just gave you poll.
Where's the poll?
The Phil surveys paper.
Where does it say about ought implies can?
So you said like, oh well, I guess now you're saying you don't really know, because
Oh, I
you
do,
understand
because
if you
I've read
agree
the
with it,
Phil
we
surveys
think-
paper. Where does it say ought implies can?
So in the case of ought implies can, it doesn't say this directly, but it says
Oh,
this
it doesn't say
analogous
it
thing that
directly,
we
you're
can
making
use.
shit
I'll
up.
say it again. If somebody's a Kantian, we would know.
So
they
you're
believe ought
making
implies
shit
can.
up. You're making an assumption about the Kantians, which isn't on the paper.
I'm making an assumption. I'm making an assumption the polling data is right. Yeah, no shit.
Yes, and
Dumbass.
no, that's not in the polling data. As you just said, dumbass, it's not there.
I'm sorry. If somebody is a Kantian, then they believe ought implies can.
No,
correct?
that does not follow, dumbass.
It's pretty easy
No,
to
it
believe
doesn't,
this.
dumbass, because
Yes,
you know
it
nothing
is.
about philosophy. Many philosophers
Sorry,
still accept...
you teach me about philosophy,
Yes,
TJump.
yes, I will, because in philosophy there are many people who can be Kantians and agree with many things and not other things. It's a very broad spectrum. There isn't like a lot of agreement in philosophy about like anything other than atheism. So no, you can't say that because they're Kantian they agree with the vast majority or even a half of Kantian perspectives. You can't make that assessment, dumbass. You're just making shit up.
You get so upset about these like minor things. So
Yes,
in the
because
case of
you're
like,
wasting time on things that don't matter to the
I don't
topic.
think so. I don't
Go
think so.
back
I
to
think
the
they do.
topic.
Well, okay. So everything everything I brought up has been addressing something you've said. If it's the case that you think it doesn't matter to the topic, stop bringing up things that don't matter to the
You
topic.
brought it up,
That's your fault.
dumbass.
No, you brought up the fact that like you don't think that ought implies can is something that people generally believe.
Because you brought it up. You were literally the one who said
I
that
brought up
first.
ought implies can.
Yes,
you
you
brought up
brought
the fact
shit
that you don't
up
think
that's
people believe
irrelevant.
this, and now you think is the case.
Yes,
that
I
this
said,
isn't
I said
relevant to
most
the topic.
liberals don't believe ought
Now that you're
implies
nervous
can.
about whether or not it's correct, now you don't think it matters to the topic anymore. This is the
No,
classic
I'm
TJump
not
strategy.
in any way nervous
Guys, I'm
about
sorry.
that.
This thing I
Crushed
brought
your
up
dumbass.
seconds ago doesn't really matter to the topic
Crushed
anymore.
your dumbass multiple
You think you're
times.
winning right now?
Yes, definitively.
Review this afterwards, I guess.
Oh, I don't have to. Like my chat says I'm winning.
But are
I
you
win.
winning in all subjective worlds or in all possible worlds?
Not in the Christian one. In the Christian world, probably not.
Go ahead. You guys have 7 minutes, and then we're going to wrap up with closing
Uh,
statements.
I'm
and then
ready.
We're going.
I'm ready to be done. I'm so tired of this kid. So
Okay. Well, if you guys want to wrap up with closing statements, we can get to the super chats. Now, we do things slightly different on the Crucible. Once the closing statements are done, we can consider the debate over. The moderators take notes the entire time. We generally have questions of our own. But go ahead with closing statements. Sinthe, allow you to go first.
Sure. So I think during the course of this debate, you saw numerous contradictions. I think TJump's community that he's playing to might think that he did okay in this. I know that's not going to be the average person watching this, and I think that TJump, after he reviews it, that won't be him either. In the case of this debate, we've kind of demonstrated that there are a tremendous amount of like contradictions in TJump's worldview, and that's about like all I have to say on that topic. If you have to like go to the point of like you don't have to believe in Kantian ideas to be a Kantian, there's very little I can do to engage with you.
TJump, you're up.
So clearly the dumbass who doesn't know anything about philosophy doesn't understand that you can be a Kantian without accepting literally every Kantian idea, which ought imply Kant is not intrinsic to Kantian ideas at all. He's just a dumbass. Secondly, there are no contradictions in my worldview, as I explained. He's just complaining about contradictions in the common use of the word should and the common use of the word morality, and how mine is distinct from that. It's not an internal contradiction. It's a contradiction between common usage and my morality. Not an internal contradiction. He probably just doesn't know what those words means because he's a dumbass. I will conclude there.
Now, TJump, if the Crucible coins the new drinking game, TJump says dumbass, is anybody going to survive?
Depends on how good you are at processing alcohol. Dumbass.
For $2, Dan Zammit says, could a human objectively determine this morality?
I assume he means like scientifically, and the hope is that yes, it's currently a hypothesis, but the goal is that yes, we should be able to discover it like a law of physics, like any other law.
Gotcha. And then again for $5 from Dan Zammit, he says, TJump, instead of trying to figure out the best of all possible worlds, which nobody will ever agree on, why not just believe in God?
He drowned babies. I mean, so it seems like a hard contradiction against our understanding of morality, that if a being drowns,
he didn't do that
babies,
in all possible worlds, TJump.
Oh, he did in the ones that he references. So yeah,
I'm just funning, you know. There's a couple more back there that Pedro's pulling up. I did have a couple of questions of my own. I just want to make sure that I got this moral system down. I'm just going to summarize as best I can. You can fill in the holes. The moral system that you use is you're looking to a perfect society conceptually. And you think that whatever that morality would look like in that conceptual perfect society is what is likely to be moral right now. Or we could use it as a guide stone maybe to determine what's moral right now.
I would say that if we get to the point where we're super technologically advanced, they're more likely to have a system of morality that would be objective and be applied to all possible worlds, including ours right now. So they're more likely to have an answer, just like scientists are more likely to have an answer to physics that would apply to all possible worlds. So I think that in the case of morality, it's the exact same way, that once we get to a point where we're further technologically and sociologically advanced, their models will be more likely to be objectively applied. And I think ours is just going to be crap compared to theirs.
Do you think that we should try to conceptualize those types of realities in order to come up with moral systems for right now?
Yes. I mean, obviously, I think we should base what's moral based on what would be moral in a world that's perfectly technologically advanced, not contingently based on our subjective limitations here and now.
So
Gotcha.
Dan Zammit never said Christian God, just for the record, TJump. So this is kind of like a straw man. You're kind of being a bit of a dumbass.
No, it was just a assumption based off of probabilities, given that he's probably an American.
Dan Zammit says, I didn't say the Christian God, so I guess your assumption was wrong.
Could be.
Neon Noir.
No, he didn't say he wasn't a Christian. He just said he didn't say the Christian God. So you're still probably right.
Not really.
Neon
Ask
Noir
him if he's Christian.
He is Christian.
Oh, T-Jump's right, dumbass, wrong.
No.
Victory.
T-Jump,
T-Jump,
no.
T-Jump wins.
You didn't say the
T-Jump
Christian
always
God.
wins. T-Jump always wins. You win. T-Jump always wins.
The chat seems to disagree with you right now, so it's up in the air.
Neon Noir.
I think the real winner is chat.
For £5, I think that's £5, says if more analysis and technological advancement means more morality, how do you explain the beast of a system we live under now?
More analysis. More morality. How do you explain? I don't understand what that means. Like we're on one of the steps towards progress. So I think as we gain more technology, we'll become more moral. And obviously moral progress means that our society is more moral than pretty much any society before it. So it's one of the steps on the path.
Gotcha.
Damn!
Well, what did he
Which
say?
didn't say he wasn't Christian, so I said he was Christian.
Yeah, he
because
didn't say
was
his God.
I never said he did. I said he probably was
Damn!
Christian.
T-Jump, we could agree on this.
You're a dumbass.
The dumbass is wrong.
You're a dumbass.
For $5, I'm sorry, from Third Rail with Omar, said not here now. I got an interview. I'm coming later. Well, thank you for the $5. I hope you did get in here later. I had two more quick questions for TJump. Where did you come up with this moral system?
Where? Minneapolis, Minnesota was where I was. I don't know what you mean. Where?
Well, I'm just saying, what was your influences for conceptualizing it?
Oh, I was reading a ton about moral realism, moral naturalism, and looking at moral intuition and moral progress, looking at the moral dilemmas, is ought. G.E. Moore's open question argument. I was researching a lot into the field and trying to create my own model of what would best explain that.
There was another person who came up with kind of a secular version of ethics that I thought was interesting. Stefan Molyneux. Have you ever?
This is crap.
You don't like his?
No, I like the actual philosophers who do those kind of things, like moral naturalism. I really like moral naturalism. Google moral naturalism, Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and yes, it does exist, contrary to his dumbass.
Interesting. I always thought you guys would be like on the same page. Have you ever talked to Stefan Molyneux?
No, I'd like to though, because I do find his theory
Pedro, you
very
get bad
problematic.
feedback, buddy.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know what's. I think you're like on your non-primary microphone is what's going on.
Well, so the biggest problem I think with Stefan Molyneux's model is that his primary argument in defense of his model is that universally preferable belief must be true, because if you disagree with it, it means you must have a universally preferable belief, which is so stupid. The fact that people have preferable beliefs subjectively doesn't necessarily mean that there is an objective one in any way. So his evidence for his model is just crap. It's based off of analytic definitions that don't actually even work. So I definitely have a problem with Stephen's model. Sam Harris's model is far better, but I still have problems with that one.
What about Jordan Peterson's model?
Christianity, you mean?
Yeah, it's not terrible, right? It's terrible.
Pretty bad. It's pretty bad. The whole drowning millions of babies thing is not the best. The fact that a God being can say anything is immoral, but it doesn't apply to him, and so he can do whatever he wants with you, doesn't matter if it's torture or kill or destroy you for any reason. Not the best, because it's clearly subjective. Like, God says it, it's subjectively real.
Well, this was the part I'm interested about when I was listening. You said in a future where we have like the maximum knowledge, the maximum technology, we're in the maximum spot, right?
Sure.
That's when we get the best objective morality, correct?
Sure, I'd say that as we progress, as like in anything, as we get better at science, we're going to have the best science. As we get better at technology, we're going to have more knowledge in this field, which will give us a better insight into like morality and everything else. Probably, I'd assume that in the future, when we do have the best technology, they'll probably have better knowledge about everything than we do.
So what if there is an ultimate being that already is that's standing at that point at the end?
Sure.
That's making the morality.
Well, if it was making the morality, that would make it subjective. So if there was an objective morality and the God had access to it, obviously it would know what morality was.
Okay. I'm not going to fake like I can understand that, but I tried.
Gotcha. We don't have any other super chat questions that came in. We do have another debate that we're doing in about 45 minutes. TJump, we sure appreciate you coming on the Crucible. It was a ton of fun. Can you shout out your channel again?
Yeah, youtube.com/TJump. Check it out. I actually got a few super chats if you don't mind. Could I read it?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, so I got a super chat from Tirar A. Degulio. I do not know how to pronounce his name at all. Keyword believe. I don't have to believe something. The truth is what the facts are. I totally agree with that for sure. That's the only one that I see right now because I've been paying attention to you guys. But yeah, thanks for letting me read it.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you're welcome to come back, T-Jump. Have a great night. Thanks for taking the time tonight.
Oh, isn't he gonna
sorry you had to deal with all the lollipop kids.
Doesn't he get to promote his channel too?
Oh yeah,
He will. And then Sinthe, go ahead.
Sure, I'm on youtube.com/Sinthe, Sinthe. You can find my content there. But I'm the left-wing in-house debater for the Crucible, and I think most of my content's going to end up being on here.
All right. Thank you guys so much. I wish you guys well. Have a great night. Gotta find the stupid outro.
I edited it beforehand. My bad, Andrew.
I couldn't find the damn outro. We got too many videos stored up.
We
do. I do appreciate it, guys. You guys have a great night. We got to get prepped for this other debate. T-Jump, thanks for being a sport and coming on tonight. Tell James I said hi. He had an interview on here not too long ago.
Awesome.
We got a chance to chat for a little while. He's a good guy.
Thanks. See you guys later.
Well, really quick. The cat. So we're off broadcast. We're off everything.
I'm still broadcasting, by the way, just so you guys.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll try anyway. Do you guys really hate each other that much? Like when I was listening, you guys were calling you dumbass and all this. Like you guys just met each other. Are you serious?
I've got no hatred for TJump.
Okay.
It's more entertaining that way, especially.
Okay, so it's entertainment value.
For
Okay,
sure.
cool.
Like, I was diagnosed with high function autism. I literally don't care what anyone thinks about anything.
So you don't hate. Okay.
So I've had to learn how to like be more emotive, to like make funny faces and shit. Gets a lot more entertaining that way.
Okay,
right.
what's the story with the fucking chair? Because I got you here right now. What's the story with the chair? You're always in the chair. How did the chair come about? What's the deal, dude?
Yeah, so this
You got
is
it off Facebook Marketplace.
Oh no,
That's easy.
$1,000 chair. So this is my lazy boy chair. I've had it for a very long time. I used to be super overweight. I used to weigh 340 pounds. So I needed a big ass chair because I was fat. And so I got my first one of these guys, and it works super, super well. It's super comfy. Like these chairs are amazing. And I've just started doing my YouTube stuff in it, and it got popularity, gained like traction as my mascot. Now I get lots of donations, and people have like fake account, the TJump's chair account. Like, oh, TJump just farted. I love that comment. Absolutely great. And so it's a great, cool thing a way to promote my channel because it's like an icon, and so I just always keep it.
I almost didn't recognize you at the debate con.
Yep.
I was like, where's the fucking chair, right?
Yep,
That's part of the fun.
It was CG. It was all CG. I was actually just here the entire time.
TJump, have a great night, brother. Take care of yourself.
Thanks. See you guys later.
Man.
And then Sinthe.
All right. Back to Discord for another after show. General chat. Where's general chat? I don't even know where it is. Oh, there's people in my general chat. People in my general chat. All right. Oh, I should still keep my camera up or some shit, shouldn't I?
What up, Jump?
Hey, how's it going?
Going all right. Just getting the shopping done.
All right. After show for my second debate of today.
Oh, damn, I didn't even know what was going on. What was it about? What I missed?
Utilitarianism versus my morality.
Utilitarianism versus your morality. Who was arguing utilitarianism?
Sinthe.
Okay. Hey, Frank. So, I'm assuming you won hands down, right?
Oh, yeah. For sure, without even a tiny bit of ambiguity.
So, who hosted it?
Crucible.
Okay. So, I'm gonna write that down so I can look it up in a minute.
It's on my stream if you want, but
Oh, you already popped it up. Cool.
yeah, I've been just live streaming all the day.
Yeah, I missed both of them today. I was gonna have to catch up with them.
Well, it's all
Catch up
one
with them
stream
later
actually.
today.
So I actually did them all on one stream, which is weird. But I'm probably gonna break it up. I'm gonna cut out the second one and post it separately, and because I kept the one show and then I did an after show for about an hour or two hanging out in Discord. So I'll probably keep all that together, and then I'll probably cut out the second debate and this after show and put those in a separate video.
Nice.
Hey, TJump, what is your grounding for the possibility of possibility and impossibility? Yes or no? Potato. The answer is potato to that question. Frank, MBJB, how's it going? I forget. Jim Bob. I remember the Jim Bob part. I don't know what the MB stands for. Frank, how's it going? Beowulf.
Yo, Tom, what's up, man?
Frank, I'm doing good. Had a good event last weekend, which went really well. Yeah. TP Seeker, have you or will you discuss what you went through and did to lose weight? Yes, I've discussed it several times before. What I did was I would bike around the 3 lakes near my house, Nokomis, Harriet, Calhoun, twice. So it's 20 miles each time. That's 40 miles. So I'd bike 40 miles a day and jog 8-ish. Just jog around the lake twice. So 8 miles. So I'd bike 40 miles, jog 8 every day for 2 summers, and I lost about 100 pounds each summer. Thanks, Tante. See you later. Ooh, Discord call-in links there. There shouldn't be 2. Weird looking thingy. TJump banner. Whereby link. No, that's not it. Chat box. Merch. Yeah, there we go. Now there's only 1. All right. Anybody else got anything going on? Any questions, comments, annoyances? Where's Illmatic when you need him? Anybody in the chat want to come and join the Discord and chat, or have any questions that I can find? Where I don't even know where. There it is. Was Ryan Lyon, friggin' rhymes? Was that the lake where you debated the guy outside of the seawall? Yes, I debated seawall. What's a seawall? I debated a flat earther on COVID around Lake Calhoun. I think it's called Bidet Madagascar or something. They changed it to be progressive. Clinton, 7 degrees warmer in your corner of Minnesota. That's funny. Clinton, if you're in Minnesota, let's get coffee. I have an open offer for anybody in Minnesota or nearby or who wants to fly here to get coffee whenever. So let me know. Send me an email on my work email. Set something up.
Yo, TJump.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Hey, minor thing. On your banner, like you're the one that's at the bottom when you stream.
Yep.
There's kind of like one little part where it's like the text overlaps itself.
Yeah, the how to join call TJump.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just fixed that like 5 minutes ago. I just noticed that. Yeah, I just had
I was
2
like
of those.
watching. I'm like, I've never noticed that before, but
yeah,
okay.
I had 2 of them uploaded. I don't know where the second one is. I hid one of them. I don't know what the second one is though.
Yeah.
Browser image cap.
I'm in Minnesota too. So
oh, nice. Let's get coffee sometime. Open offer to
Yeah.
get coffee with anybody who wants to hang out.
Okay, cool.
Number. Oh, there it is. Call a number. Call a number. Delete that one. Remove. And now there should just be the one. Call a number. There we go. Now there should only be one. Only one.
TJump.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hey.
What does the MB stand for?
It means made by.
Ah, made by Jim Bob. That's it. I knew.
Made by Jim Bob.
Yep.
Hi.
How are we
going? I wanted to ask you, based on, let's say, all behavior, beliefs, everything we do is an expression of evolution. From that perspective, we couldn't actually invalidate religious belief or affirm or invalidate atheism, because it would all have to be inclusive expression, and to argue against one would be basically just like I don't know, like a temporary battle or something. But because if evolution is the end all telos, if it's the end all direction, then the philosophy and belief part wouldn't that be just a symptom?
No. So like even if all of our beliefs came about by evolution can still give us some correspondence to reality. Like I can't believe I exist and be wrong. So based on our evolutionary beliefs, even if it's purely evolutionary, I can still ground logic and reason and math, and I can use those to build other beliefs and then come to some understanding of the way reality is through evidence, if we have some way to differentiate imagination from reality, which is what science is. So we can still, even if all of our beliefs are grounded in evolution, come to beliefs about reality.
Yeah, but the question is, even an incorrect belief or something that was illogical, wouldn't it necessarily just be another expression of evolution?
No. So
Like, it
again,
couldn't be
evolution
wrong.
evolution can give us a lot of beliefs, and they're all responses of evolution. But evolution can give us some beliefs that can't be wrong. I can't believe I exist and be wrong. So we can base some beliefs off of those and not others, and then we could say that these are real beliefs, correspondence to reality. So whether or not they come from evolution doesn't matter. Like, it's a genetic fallacy. If I program a computer or a laptop to say, or calculator to say 1 + 1 = 2, it doesn't matter who programmed that. It's irrelevant who programmed that. All that matters is whether or not the 1 + 1 = 2 corresponds to reality. The origin is irrelevant. It's a genetic fallacy.
Right, but I guess the next stage would be arguing that we ought to follow any one given belief would be an expression of evolution, like the persuasive element of it. But
no.
we
So
couldn't
again,
actually know.
evolution can't. There are some beliefs evolution can't give us false beliefs. Evolution cannot make me believe I exist and be wrong. Evolution cannot make me imagine a round square. So because evolution cannot give us false beliefs, then it's not arbitrary that evolution gives us these. So it's not just an expression of evolution, it's an expression of reality. Reality is what makes it so I can't imagine a round square. Reality is what makes it so I can't believe I exist and be wrong. So even though I got these through evolution, evolution can't give me wrong beliefs here. Evolution is just an expression of reality. So if my belief is an expression of evolution and evolution is an expression of reality, then my belief is an expression of reality.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yep, no problem. Somebody asked, I would love to hear your thoughts on Marcus Gabriel's concept of ontology. I've never heard of that. Send me an email or something. I can find his stuff and check it out. Google it right now just in case. It's easy to find. That's a download. I don't want to download. A realist ontology? I do not see anything easy to find on it. Against the World? Maybe New Realism, Marcus Gabriel. So I have found some videos on it I can check out. Favorites bar. Anyone else got any questions, comments, whatever?
What kind of coffee do you like, TJump?
I like coffee that has stone fruit in it. So there's a bunch of different coffees and they add hints of stone fruit. Those are usually the best. Also, San Francisco Bay coffee is really good. SF Bay coffee. But yeah, anything that has stone fruit.
Do you know any places in Minneapolis that serve it?
No.
No, okay.
I get it from like Target and stuff. I just look for the ones that have stone fruit. Like the Intelligentsia one is. Oh yeah, there is a place that sells Intelligentsia. I know there's a coffee shop that sells Intelligentsia. Don't remember which one it is though. TJ, the other day you mentioned having several staples. Did you have the surgery you talked about? How did that go? Yes, I had a tummy tuck. So after I lost the 200 pounds, I had a bunch of loose skin under my gut, and I had that removed by having a mini tummy tuck. And I got, I don't remember, 20 staples, something like that. What are your thoughts on Jewish people? Jewish people are the second highest IQ, or maybe, I don't know. Jewish people are the highest IQ people in the world. They do extremely well on discoveries. They have more Nobel Prizes per capita than anybody else. Jewish people are incredibly intelligent and hardworking and do a lot of stuff. Jews should rule the world, more or less. Ashkenazi Jews.
Can I ask a question here?
Sure.
I just watched your debate or the conversation, modern day debate with the gender, race, and the left thing. So I'm a theist and Christian. However, there's a lot of views that the first guy, Hake, or whatever his name is, has.
Yeah, most Christians are not going to agree with Hake. Not Hake. Oh.
So I know that you used to be a Christian. Obviously, you're not anymore. But what would your outsider, I guess, input in would be from the Christian community to kind of deal with influences like that? Because they are like him and like Jesse Lee Peterson. I think they're closely connected, right?
Oh yeah, he's Jesse Lee Peterson's producer. They work in the same office. But
right, yeah.
I mean, I think it's just like atheism. Like, there's always very stupid people with very stupid ideas in both groups, and all you can do is like criticize them and try to explain why they're wrong. Like, I disagree. Like, I have a big problem with all of the bigotry on the left and demonizing people who support positions just because they support positions. Like, Matt Dillahunty said I'm a bigot and a terrible person because I supported All Lives Matter and Super Straight in a debate, which, I mean, the whole point of me doing those debates is to show how people on the left are just as bigoted as like the Bethlehem Baptist Church when it comes to those who disagree with their positions. So I think that, yeah, we should definitely criticize the people in our own communities who are illogical. And that's about as all you can do, really.
Sure, yeah. Well, what was the context for that debate? Because it seemed like,
which one?
To me, it seemed ridiculously civil compared to what it should have been. He should have been torn apart, man.
The Hake one?
It was the four-man panel.
It was just it was just one of the modern day debate panels. I mean, since it's a live event, people are a lot nicer usually in live events, with very few exceptions. And Hake is a really nice guy. Like, I went out to dinner with Hake on one of the nights, and he's super nice to talk to. Like, really nice guy, really personable. So it's hard to be angry at Hake, even though what he says is completely ridiculous, because he's such a nice guy.
Yeah, sure. No, that's fair enough.
Nothing important. Jay Schneider. Jay Schneider. Curious about your setup. It seems like you have two screens, cam in the middle, and no teleprompter. Yeah, I have a 55-inch TV, LG TV, as my primary screen. Then I have my laptop, my work laptop, which is like a gaming laptop, which I do all my stuff on. And then my camera is like right in the middle of the two screens. The big TV is right in front of me. I have a couple lights, some edifier speakers. I have on my Discord, I have a complete list of all my setup and all the stuff I use on one of the sections. Actually, since I have my Discord up on my screen, I can probably show it. Nope. How to set up debates. TJump streaming setup. Here we go. TJump streaming setup. So this mouse is amazing. Phenomenal. These speakers are phenomenal. This guy lets you use a mouse and keyboard on a computer. This captures your video camera footage and puts it directly into your computer as a webcam. This boosts the signal of your microphone. This captures the signal of the microphone. Best mouse ever, other than the fact that mouse wheel busts all the time. I use this as my mic. There's my TV, 50-inch. There's my laptop. There's my chair and my camera. All right. All right.
Hey, Tom.
Hey.
Hey, back to that the debate question the guy just asked. Do you find that it's a large difference in your experience from online debating to being in person? Like you just said, you can hang out with the Hake guy and be totally cool with him, and it's like he's friendly, and you totally disagree with him. And we've just been so used to the like online chat debate, Skype debate, where we could kind of be pretty much ruthless to some extent. Did you find that being around all those different people, that you're actually surprisingly more capable of just being around them?
Not really. Like, I don't see a difference because of my high function autism. I don't really see a difference. It depends on the person.
Okay.
Like, there were definitely at least 2 dumpster fire debates at the event. One was Dylan versus Infrared. That was hilarious. And the other, which, I mean, it's exactly the same as online dumpster fires. And the other one was me versus Alex Stein. That was exactly the same as me versus Alex Stein online. No difference at all. The exact same. So, I mean, it depends on the people you're with, but overall, I don't really notice that much of a difference.
Got it.
Have I heard of Joel Chestnut or Matt Stone? Maybe do a mukbang stream sometime. Well, I have not heard of Joel Chestnut or Matt Stone. I'm probably not going to do a mukbang because whenever I eat on stream, people just yell at me like, what are you doing to eat on stream? So most of my viewers hate that. I think I've had like 6 people say they were going to unsubscribe if I didn't stop eating on camera. I didn't stop eating though. Do I have a picture of my bicycle? My request is of a sexual nature. I don't. I mean, I could take one. If you pay me enough money, I'll take a picture of my microphone. I'll put it on put on like a sexy underwear thing on it too if you want. Never any worries about the whole eye contact thing? Yeah, no, I don't care about eye contact. Like, some big streamers don't have eye contact. I don't think it's that important. And you're working on a setup? Nice. Grumler, which Matt? Matt Dillahunty. Yeah, Jay Schneider. It was Matt Dillahunty. Yes, the live dumpster fire was hilarious. Dylan lifted his shirt up. That was hilarious. He like took his shirt half off. Absolutely funny. And then Infrared grabbed his phone and started to show the tweets between them, like the text. Like that was pretty funny too. Duck eye contact. I look straight into the boobs. Anybody else got any questions, comments? Hang out in the chat. Join the Discord, discord.io/TJump. Yeah, Dylan and Infrared were supposed to do a boxing match. That was pretty funny. I'd like to see that. Dylan screamed. Yes, that did occur. Hake defeat you debate. I don't know if Hake could be counted as defeating anyone. I think his view is so outlandish that it's not. I don't know if it counts as defeating anybody. But that reminds me, I need to email Hake because I was going to invite him on my show to do a God debate. Thoughts on pineapple on pizza? Pineapple on pizza is disgusting. I actually had a piece of pineapple on pizza at the event. It was Alex Stein. Alex Stein kindly gave me a piece of his white sauce, pineapple, and mushroom pizza, which was disgusting. Tante Iguana on neo-realism. I don't know what neo-realism is. Can you recommend some of your videos? I'm not sure what neo-realism is. I don't know what that means. Power politics and internal relations? I don't know what that means. International relations. Limited potential for cooperation. I probably disagree with that. Frank Jones, yes. TJump kicked ass. The other guy is a dumbass. Correct. I agree. Next debate con, tell James to go somewhere sunny and put you in the nicest 5-star hotel. Well, we went to Dallas, Texas, so it's about as warm there as it can get. It was 70 the day before the debate. James wouldn't pay for that though. Like James does not splurge on hotel and plane tickets. I got a 5-hour 2-plane layover. So oh, Stripper Liquor wanted an invite. Can somebody, Frank, do you know Stripper Liquor's Discord name? I think it was like a J.H. something. Is Stripper Liquor in the Modern Day Debate Discord? Oh, God 420. Is God 420 here? You mention to damn it, that's in the wrong place too. I put it on my friggin' god damn it. Delete message. All right. Yes, James is very frugal. I would say frugal is the wrong word. I would say stingy. Stingy is a more accurate word. Alex Stein won the moon landing debate. That's funny. That's funny. I think not. That's okay, Dante. I'm fine. I don't know what. The moon landing was my favorite Hollywood production, big boy. Wow. We need to get a big. Alex Stein brought a big YouTuber guy, 1.5 million subs, who's a troller. His name was Cassidy Campbell, I think. Yeah. So Cassidy Campbell. Huge freaking YouTube channel, 1.57 million subs. He was there dressed as rapper guy, absolutely hilarious. Yeah, Alex was invited. Alex was invited to do debates, but he brought somebody else who was not invited. All right, guys. If anybody else, unless anybody else got any questions or something, I'm going to head out and get some food. All right, that's good. It's good for a day stream. Thanks, guys. I will see you later. Peace out.